Yeah. Holy sun glare. Like I'm trying to get into an angle to where the sun is just like not beaming into the freaking window and like blocking off the top of my head. Anyways, what up, everybody? Welcome to my sports channel. Hope you all feel good, smelling good, feeling good mentally and physically. As today we have some more soccer to talk about with you guys today. I know this is supposed to be a channel where I talk about mostly all sports, not just one sport. We mostly talk about primarily just the US women's soccer team, and it's bothered my. I don't know if y'all see it on like for y'all, but like the sun is just like is bothering me. So we might have like most of this video just be like freaking clips or freaking some gameplay from FIFA because like yeah, I don't want to bother y'all by like having the sun just being like beaming. I don't have like anything to cover it, so whatever. That's not what this is about. This is about that right there. That is pretty much that. Lindsey Horan, she came out, made some comments that particularly aren't what I will call the best comments to have made at all. I feel like is first here's the thing. We're playing the blame game. That's what we're doing now. We're playing the blame game. Who fault is it for why the team lost? And Haran, I love her. I one of my favorite players. I've nicknamed her years ago as being the smile of America. She has a great smile. So for years I've been calling her the smile of America. And it's like this is one of those where again I'm not a biased person, so I'm gonna have to slander a little bit one of my favorite players in like all sports because I don't agree with what she said, primarily because it's the blame game and it's not taking accountability for yourself. And I just didn't like it, like especially when you're the captain. When you're the captain, you kind of want to take a lot of pressure off the younger people. You also want to put it on yourself just a little bit. Even if you don't believe it yourself, you kind of do want to like shoulder to blame yourself a little bit, just because that's what a captain does. So, as the picture shows, I don't think we got the absolute best out of some of the younger players because of the way that we were set up. At the end of the day, it's like you're set up in a structure to do this. So it's a two-part comment. Like it's blaming Vlatko, obviously, because it's, the word set up implies formation and coaching. But to blame the young players to me is not the correct thing to do, especially because she said this on Christian Press and Tobin Heath, like, why do I keep saying Keith? She said this on Tobin Heath and Christian Press podcast called the recap show. And Tobin Heath has also said herself, and Christian Press has said it herself as well, that a lot of the issues that they feel like exist is there hasn't been a real passing of a torch from the older players to younger players, and that there's like a disconnect between them. And I feel like this comment from Lindsey Horan furthers that disconnect, because if you're a younger player and you see your captain say, it's your fault, that they lost the World Cup, you're like, like you're like, well, you're blaming me? What did I do? And it's like that's a real thing to say though. Like that last part I just mentioned, what did I do? That's a real thing to say, because out of 23 people on the roster, on the active roster, I should say, there wasn't that many young people on the team. Out of 23, 7 would be considered the young players of the team. Air quotes from the young players of the team. And most of them didn't even play that many minutes. Alyssa Thompson barely played. She's the youngest one on the team. She's 18. She barely played. She got put in like in like what, maybe twice, maybe. Like she got put in for like maybe a minute and a half during like stoppage time. I think that's pretty much it. I think she did come in a second game where she also played like maybe a minute or two. Like she was barely present, and even she was also on the recap show. I think the week before, Lindsey Horan, and even she talked about that, like about how there's like a disconnect where she felt like she was alone. Again, what this is showing us when it comes to Lindsey Horan's comments, when it comes to Alyssa Thompson, her comments, you're really seeing what Christian Press said about there being disconnect. Because Alyssa Thompson said that she felt very alone during the World Cup. She felt like she didn't have anybody. And it's such that the veterans aren't really bringing in the younger players into the fold. The veterans aren't really talking to young players. They're not molding them. They're not helping them. They're not doing anything involving them. They just by themselves. And it's like this is the disconnect, and this isn't going to make anything better. By the way, like all this drama coming out about Horan blaming the younger players and a young player like Sam saying she felt alone. This is telling you that there's a big rift in the locker room that no coach is going to fix. This is something that the players themselves have to freaking like start communicating with each other and get it fixed. Because think about like who's on a team. People like Alyssa Thompson, her teammate didn't get called in. Her teammate is injured. Alyssa Thompson plays on the same team as Christian Press. They both play in LA for Angel City. Press has been injured for like a year and a half, 2 years. And Thompson, she's the first round draft pick. So her only teammate didn't even get called up because she's injured, which is an obvious thing. So she really didn't have a lot of people who she could connect with. Especially considering the fact that she didn't get like a lot of time in friendlies, which is also something Chris Press mentioned, that a lot of these players who did play, this was their first World Cup, this is their first big tournament. They didn't really play a lot leading up to this when it comes to friendlies. So it's like, there's that. But to go and say that the young players are to blame is to like ignore the fact that young players barely played. Again, Thompson barely played. Ashley Sanchez, who's amazing, didn't play at all. It's her fault. Is it really the baddie Ashley's fault that the team lost when she didn't even play? She didn't make that decision. She didn't choose to not play. Her playing was based on Vlatko subbing her in, and she didn't play a single minute in the World Cup. If we want to consider Savannah DeMello, one of the young players, and it just was her first World Cup. I think it's like actually her first entire international call up period. Like I'm pretty sure DeMello, her first call up in general to the national team was for the World Cup, which it's a questionable thing when this person's first time with the national team is the most important tournament for the national team. But do we want to blame her? She played not the best, but she didn't play like one game. I think if I remember correctly, she played like one game or 2 games or a game and a half. Because like she got taken off after a very questionable like half, and didn't see her again after that. And I say questionable because she kept making mistakes, and I felt always about DeMello. DeMello's a good player, but when she gets frustrated, she starts to like make mistakes. A lot of bad tackles. Some fouls here and there. She looks like she's irritated, and so she just makes mistakes. But that's just one person who played one game, maybe a game and a half, if even that. So it's like, again, we're blaming people who aren't even playing the game, who aren't even playing. The people who play the most were probably the best people on the pitch. Ironically, the young players who played the most are unironically probably the better players on the pitch. Think about Naomi Girma. She played pretty much every single game. She was the best defender the team had. Other than Listen there, but she's a goalie and she's great. But when it comes to just the defense of the team, no one was better on the defensive side than Naomi Girma. She's a young player. It's her fault the team lost. She's a center back. It's not her job to score. That's what the team was lacking. The team wasn't lacking defense. I'll tell you that much. The team had great defense. Where's the offense at? The other young player who played a lot of the games, if not, I think she played all the games, Emily Fox, who had a great World Cup. She was probably the second best defender on the team after Naomi Girma. Again, the defenders, they all had the other teams weren't really scoring, were they? But is it their fault that there's no scoring from the offense? You see what I'm getting at here? Like, why it's bad to just a blanket blame of the young players when you look at the 7 young players who were on the roster. 2 of them were on defense. Defense did great. Those 2 people could be considered, the best players on the pitch when it came to the defensive side. One of them, played a game and had some miscues. Another person didn't play at all, and we're blaming her. Thompson played a minute or two, blaming her. So there's 2 people who I didn't mention yet, and those people are Sophie Smith and Trinity Robin. Sophie Smith played every game. Robin played, I think, 2.5. She did have one game where she didn't do amazing and got taken off for Lynn Williams. And then Lynn Williams started the next game after that. Smith played every game. She didn't have a great game. Like, she didn't have a great World Cup. She didn't have a bad one either. You know, I feel like this goes into like the lack of offense the team had. You know, I always say this when it comes to like Angel City FC, where it's like, you know, they don't really have the midfield to create shots for their forwards. So a lot of the times you'll see their best players like Junindo, Alyssa Thompson, you know, pretty much not seeing the ball enough to score because the midfield's not really creating those opportunities. You know, a lot of the time to me, the best teams have a midfield that creates shots. You know, like your finishers or your forwards, their jobs to finish. You want your left wingers and right wingers to get some crosses in, obviously. But for the most part, the best teams in soccer, period, both men's and women's, the midfield is facilitating so much offensive chances where the forwards are just getting in net. You think about Manchester City. They have amazing midfield who puts Erling Haaland and the rest of the forwards in a position to where they can score. You look at the history of Barcelona, particularly look at when they won travel, when it came to like Iniesta and Xavi, you know, when they have Busquets and Puyol, you know, this rotation of really good people who can move the ball and create opportunities for Pedro and Messi, Luis Suarez and David Villa and, you know, Neymar. Like, these guys didn't have to worry about creating so many shots for themselves because the midfield were making shots for them. The U.S. national team's midfield might have been their weakest point. And it pains me to say it because a lot of people in the midfield who I like. But if you watch the games, the midfield looked like the weak point. The defense looked solid. You know, there was moments like the goal against them, and I forgot which game it was. I think it was against the Dutch. The goal against them when they played against the Dutch, where pretty much someone went unmarked. A lot of people blame Crystal Dunn for it. You know, she tried to get the ball out. It didn't get out. And Jen Julia Ertz tried to like, you know, at the last second get in there and block the shot and didn't, and went in net. And that led to like the, you know, Lindsey Horan later on scoring the tie. But like when you think about the team, I said before, the defense did pretty good the entire time. The forwards couldn't really get anything, you know, in net. They took a lot of shots, but didn't really do much. The midfield to me was the weakest point. And a lot of that was because, as I said before, the team's midfield are also playing forward. Like, that's kind of what it was. You watch the World Cup. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the World Cup, watch some highlights, and you'll see that the U.S. midfield were also trying to score more than trying to create shots. And I feel like you can't have 6 people trying to freaking score at the same time. You can't have your striker, your left winger, your right winger, and your midfield all trying to score at the same time. Someone has to create the opportunities. Someone. It's not gonna be Andy Sullivan because Andy Sullivan's playing a defensive midfield position, so she's more so trying to play defense. She has some good passes off, but she's more her job's more so to be, you know, defensive, while Lindsey Horan and Rose Lavelle are, you know, pushing forward. Keyword there is just mentioned though, Lindsey Horan, who's, you know, another person who wants to score more than she wants to pass the ball. And, you know, the weakest point of the team was midfield. Sullivan's not one of the young players. Roosevelt's not one of the young players. Lindsey Horan is not one of the young players. She played pretty much every single game, the entire games. Lindsey Horan, I couldn't find a stat for it, but I think she has the most minutes played. Either her or Alex Morgan has the most minutes played when it came to, you know, the front 6. You know, obviously in the back, Emily Fox, Crystal Dunn, Julie Ertz, you know, Listen Nair, Naomi Garner, they all played a lot. They played every game. Obviously, Nair played every game. Garner played every game. Dunn played every game. Fox played every game. But that's the defense side of the team. When it comes to that front 6, your forwards, your wingers, midfield, no one played more than Horan. But she's the one who's shifting the blame to everyone else, particularly the younger players who barely played. 2 of the people who were the young players on offense did play, one of them barely played in terms of training development. She played like a game and a half, and that was pretty much it. Townsend played like a minute and a half, and that was it. Sanchez didn't play at all. Yeah, so it's like it's just one of them things where it's like you can't really blame the young players when the young players didn't really play. You know, again, it goes back to accountability. It goes back to Christian Press saying that there seems to be like some kind of like rift or distance between the young players and the veteran players. And I don't think that these comments from Lindsey Horan will make that any better. You know, like a lot of the right wing people who are going to complain they'll tell you the reason the team lost because they went woke and, you know, they were doing the protests and activism and things like that. It's like, that's not why the team lost. The team lost because there's no chemistry. The team lost because there seemingly is no relationship between the younger players and veteran players, to a point where the players, I shouldn't even say players because it's just Haran, are openly, you know, saying the younger players are the blame here, when they most of them didn't even play. The ones who did play barely played. The ones who had even longer minutes than that were pretty much the stars who people were hoping for to be, you know, the shining light of the team. You just want to see more. You know, like even Christy Mewis barely played. I don't think she's considered one of the younger players, but she barely played. And this is also like why a lot of people were hoping that Taylor Korniak would have got picked, because it's like you got to have people on a team who's not just a scorer. You know, like Korniak, like she does have, you know, a very good chance of you know, on set pieces when it comes to like a cross, she can use her head to get it in net. But again, referencing the recap show, Kristen Press and Tobin Heath, which again I'll have a link in the description box below for their channel. They talked about how there wasn't really a lot of you know, players on the team who do particular roles. For example, Abby Dahlkemper, she's very, very good at long throw-ins. Generally has someone who does things like that. You know, I saw someone else talk about how everyone on the team is the scorer, and it's like, that's not wrong. You know, like, you know, Roosevelt's a great passer, and she does tend to want to pass before she tries to go for goal. But it's like, again, you think about the midfield. You know, your forwards trying to score, Horan trying to score. Rose might try to create a shot here and there, and Andy, you know, she'll try to get some passes towards Rose, she'll try to get some passes, but Andy mostly is trying to play defense. Yeah, there's not like people who are trying to like just create passes. Korniak would have been someone who is more of a pass first kind of midfielder as well when it came to Chris Mewis, who, if she had more time, she probably would have created some shots herself. Like, it just, we didn't have I don't even say we didn't have like the best players for the job, because we really did. We just didn't have the right strategy, didn't have the right formations, and we didn't make the right decisions when it came to substitutions and play time. Again, Ashley Hatch didn't get picked at all. Ashley Sanchez didn't play at all. So it's like, when you hear those words, so when you say, when a team lost the World Cup and you mention someone didn't even play, that's alarming. Why'd you pick her if you're not a player? Why'd you pick Ashley Sanchez if you're a player? You know, because you kind of want that to be a thing. You know, why'd you call up Alyssa Thompson to barely put her in? She played 2 minutes. Why? Why bother call her up if you're going to play for 2 minutes? You know, why'd you call Sophia Huerta? She didn't get a chance to play. Huerta didn't play a single freaking minute. Why? Why you call up then if you're not gonna play her? What was the point? Alana Cook played no minutes. What's the point? And a lot of that goes back to the whole Vlatko situation, and, you know, him being a bad manager and not really being good at making decisions. But, you know, if people are going to play the blame game, you know, accountability. That's the moral of the story of this video. Accountability. Before you shift blame to other people, say it's the young player's fault, this person's fault, that person's fault, you gotta be accountable. What did you do? You scored 1 goal against the Dutch that kind of saved the team from getting kicked out earlier than they did. Pretty much it. Yeah, that's literally pretty much it. You know, you don't want people to blame the older players when, you know, some of the older players were part of the reason why we lost to begin with. You know, I don't want to name names, but you know, it's not like Rapinoe had a great freaking World Cup. It ain't like Alex Morgan had a great World Cup. But hey, we won't blame them. We'll blame the young players who barely played, with the exception of Fox and Germa, who were great. And Sophie Smith, who, you know, on the left side, she was trying. You know, she was trying. This actually isn't the video I want to do today. It's like, ironically, I wanted to do a video talking about like overall the World Cup. You know, what we could look forward to in the future. That was my plan. My plan for today's video, this week's video, was to talk about the future. You know, what we look forward to, how the team could line up in the next coming friendlies and things like that. But you know, then Horan blamed the young players. I feel like I need to jump in. You know, and I'll still do that video. I'll still do a video about, you know, potential future roster and things like that. I also want to talk about the whole political situation that was involved in it. But here we are doing this video. But yeah, I'm going to end right there because it's almost been 30 minutes. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Leave any thoughts in the comment section below. I've been your boy, Anubis the Gamer Archer. I'll see you when I see you. I'm out of here. Deuces.